I'm Angela.
And this is NFGeeks. All right. Well, for this episode, Angela, I wanted to. This is sort of an expansion off of the dream episode that we've been talking about. We did one with Josh and some with you.
Yes, I saw. It was nice.
And this is a sort of coming off of that one, but it's sort of a new area. And I'm trying to come up with the right word for this. But in my mind, I call it an NF moment. And an NF moment is when, as an NF, you encounter some situation. Usually, it's about people. It's not usually about, like, technology or something. Could be, but it's usually about people. But you have this sort of moment where you know what's going to happen, or you pick up some kind of vibe, or you pick up some kind of little hint that you realize there's something much bigger than that, and you sort of make a prediction or an understanding of what's going to happen, and it happens. Okay, so this is an NF moment, and NF moments, real evidence of the NF moment, when they're strong, is when you have them with other people who are NFs.
Yes.
And so 2 or 3 of you are having the same sort of experience of a situation and having some, the same sort of vibe at the same time. But they don't have to have other people. They could just be your own moments. And they usually involve people, other people, like having a sense of others. Or at least for ENFPs they are. They might be something deeper, more with nature or something else, like if you're an INFJ or I don't know. Something, it might be different for each NF. But I do think there are these NF moments where we sort of are in touch with something going on in the universe, and something actually happens the way we think it's going to happen.
Almost to like a mystical point.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And it's very quick too. And also I find too, and here's what people don't realize, or the other types don't realize, is that sometimes when this is at its strongest, an NF moment is when there's something sort of bone-chilling and hair-raising and like awful is about to happen. Like when things are awful, sometimes that's when the NF moment
the bad
kicks in.
More the bad feeling.
That's even strong. And you're like, oh God, this is bad. And then sure enough, badness happens.
Yep.
All right. So what do you think about that? Do you have any moments like that, or what would you like to share?
Well, I have a couple things. I can go in kind of all the different directions that you just brought up.
Sure.
You remember Mike? He was my boyfriend, the INFJ, that was on the show a little while ago.
Yep.
He and his 2 friends, I don't know that they're NFs, but I'm pretty sure they're NFs. One was going to medical school, then decided he was going to go to California to grow grapes and be a vine, work,
Okay.
Doing wine. The other one has 2 parents who are lawyers, but has a philosophy degree. So that's what tells me a little bit. And knowing them personally,
or at least an intuitive.
NFs. Yes,
minimally.
They seem NF-ish. Them, I remember there's one story that they've told me is they went to a party together in high school, and as soon as they got there, they all had the feeling almost instantaneously that this was going to be a bad deal. They didn't want to be there. Let's go. Not more than 25 minutes after they left, the entire party got raided, everybody got arrested, everyone got in trouble. It was a big, bad situation.
Sure.
So, that's one thing outwardly, just from me understanding it as an outward person.
Do you understand, has Mike ever talked about his direct experience of this? Like what he thought, what was going through his mind, what he felt, like any kind of details?
I remember he told me that there was specific instances where people were looking a little more than drunk. Things like that, where he was just getting that in the pit of his stomach, just this is not good, I don't want to be here. Both the uncomfortable, I don't want to be around these kind of people, and the uncomfortable, nothing good can come from this kind of feeling. Almost like the parental kind of feeling, even though, we're younger, but almost having that feeling like I need to protect my friends. More so than him thinking about himself, I remember him telling me. It wasn't even more about me, it was I don't want my friends to be here if something goes down. So I remember him telling me that part. More the feeling of like wanting to protect people and wanting to make sure that, nobody else got stuck in this, and almost even trying to get other people to say, hey, I don't know why you're here, but maybe we should go. People that he knew. So I'm not really sure exactly. I'm sure I could ask him at another point and we could go through it again, but I know with me personally, I used to avoid situations altogether because specific people and specific places gave me a bad feeling. Like if friends want to go to a certain person's house and I know that this person has gotten in trouble, or if they just give me a bad vibe when I talk to them, they seem like they're no good, I usually get that feeling in my stomach that's like, I better not. And
anything specific comes to mind?
Let me see. Sure. So I'm trying to think of exactly when it was. I know it was in high school at some point, which was a few years ago for me. But I remember I had a group of friends that wanted to meet up after hockey practice, and we, being teenagers, I knew that we were gonna drink, and people were probably gonna smoke or whatever, and most illegal activity was gonna go on, and I remember that I said, okay, yeah, I'll go, and I decided that I would go, but then something as I was getting ready, I wasn't even near the situation yet. This was just anticipating the situation that I was getting a bad feeling, and I didn't go. And I remember that nobody got arrested or anything, but it just wasn't a good night for anybody. As far as I can understand, someone got really sick. A couple people were just not doing very well. It was just not a good time altogether. And maybe even to get away from the party situation is just, I feel like a person, specifically a person in general, I feel like I can tell when I shouldn't be around that person past a certain extent. I told you about this before, but I'll talk about it for the viewers to know. I had a friend who I grew up with my whole life. She was like a sister to me. I loved her. She was a great person. But as we got older, she started hanging out with the wrong people, the wrong crowd, doing things that she shouldn't be doing, getting into a lot of trouble, doing a lot of unhealthy things. And it got to a point where I could see that nothing good was going to come of it, but I wanted to help get her out, so I tried as hard as I could to get her away from the situation, get her away from, the things she was doing, trying to tell her, hey, don't you see that this is wrong? Don't you see that I'm trying to help you? And it just never went that way. So I said to myself that I knew in my feeling, in my gut, that if she wasn't going to get away from it at one point or another, there was almost an inevitability in my mind that maybe I was going to get sucked into it at some point. And I didn't want to put myself in that position to be like her, where I was trying to get her out and she just couldn't be pulled. The rope just kept breaking and she just kept falling right back in. And I had to just distance myself, and I haven't spoken to her since. And I don't know what happened to her, or, I hope that everything's okay with her, but I don't know. I never know for sure. And that to me, and maybe it's my NF that makes me feel that way, but it makes me feel sad when I know that I can't fix something that's so terrible about what's going on in a person's life. And that's one of those things. So that's one of my NF issues moments.
Sure.
We'll go to issues, but
yeah, that's another episode. One of my favorite NF moments happened in the past year because it was really, really strong.
Okay.
And it was with my my ex-girlfriend, the doctor.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
The doctor.
Which should be a whole episode about that. I won't do it because she's an INFP and she would be humiliated.
Yes. We don't want to humiliate her.
And then I would get a nasty email.
She's already getting humiliated, just the fact that you brought
that there's
her
such
up.
a thing, and there's such... Oh, please. She's already humiliated that there's such a thing called NFGeeks. Probably.
Yes.
The poor
okay.
thing. But that's probably not that bad. But, all right, so she's an INFP. Okay. So that's important because, to kind of give the prep, and, most of the viewers who pay attention to Myers-Briggs knows this, but just to sort of give the background, is that for ENFPs and INFPs, our traits are running in the same direction in terms of introversion, extroversion. Okay, so it's just ENFPs and INFPs are really in tune with each other regarding the outside world. Okay, so we're both extroverted intuitives. So our intuition is about the outside world. The ENFPs is stronger than the INFPs, but it's still running in the same direction. We're both introverted feelers. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the INFP is a very deep introverted feeler, perhaps the deepest of all.
They are. They're pretty deep.
Deeper than all 16 types, let alone NFs.
Yeah.
Okay. But their deep, their things run deep, and I'm an introverted feeler too, but not as deep as the INFP. That doesn't mean ENFPs aren't deep, but INFPs are deep in their feelings. But still, everything's running sort of in the same direction. Now, a little aside for the viewers is that if you're an ENFP in a relation with an INFP, or if you're in a relationship with a type where you share you don't share extroversion, introversion, but you share the other functions, the other traits. Mm-hmm. This is my theory of what happens. This is kind of a hit and a miss as part of relationships go, because I've been with a lot of INFPs in my time. Not to sound slutty, but but I have. I've logged a lot of INFP hours. So what I find is that when an INFP and ENFP are facing the world, everything is running parallel. So that we really understand the world in the same way. Okay, and we're processing things almost in the identical same way. And there's not a lot of argument between the INFP and the ENFP when we're looking externally at the world. So a lot of it, so for example, with the doctor, if I went, she would have this experience of a person and, be very negative. She's like, oh, can you believe this is what happened? This person did this, this, and that, and isn't that terrible? And immediately I would say, oh my God, that's awful. Who would do that? And it's because we're processing the external world the same. So that's the positive thing. The negative thing, if you're, and this is not just ENFP, INFP, again, if you only have difference between the introversion and extroversion, is that when these things are turned at each other, there's no like circuit, like it just blocks right away.
You're just gonna block each other.
Right, it just goes right, it just goes right.
And it'll never pass.
No, and there'll never be a circuit. It's basically energy going against energy. So when everything's going out, it's good, but when it turns in and it just really, it becomes unstable. So just remember that.
Again, which you're saying, it's kind of 50-50. It's either a hit or miss at that point.
Well, if it's always going out, it's a hit, and it'll always work, and it'll be great and beautiful and wonderful. If it's aimed at each other, nothing good comes of it. And this would be true if it was like, I think of ESTJ, ISTJ, or INTP and ENTP, or anything. I mean, that's my hypothesis that this could go out to the other types. Okay, but this is about NF moments, so I just wanted to talk about that for a minute. All right, so I was with the doctor, and she was she wanted to buy a minivan, a brand new minivan. And she wanted to go to every dealership within about 40 miles of here. And the funny thing is, I looked on Consumer Reports for a minivan. I said, look, this is the best minivan for your dollar, and that's what you should get. But she had to go to 30 places. And, of course, in the end, she bought the one that I said, but she had to go have the experience. But
the insecurity kicked in, so she had to make sure that she was making the right choice.
She just thought I was an idiot.
Oh. Which is completely
sure, that's plausible. Yeah. And it's okay. She had to go through her own process. I'm not even mad about it. Her process was she wanted to see for herself all these vans and make a choice for herself. So I went with her, and it was a whole day affair, from 8 in the morning to 8 at night.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And it was all pretty positive. We went to all sorts of different places. We went to Ford. We went to, Chrysler. We went to Mazda, Toyota, all the places. And so we go to a Honda dealership. Okay. Now, we've already been to 7 places. We go to this Honda dealership. And now what I'm about to tell you happens over tops 30 seconds, maybe 40 seconds. Okay. We get out. We walk into the door. We meet a guy. The guy says, hi, how may I help you? The doctor says, I'm interested in getting a minivan. He says, okay, come and sit with us. We sit down at a table with him, and we sit right down, and he said, what kind of minivan are you looking for? And the doctor says, well, I might go used, I might go, depending on the price, I might go used or brand new. And before we even get into that discussion, somebody says, hey, there's a phone call for you, meaning the salesman, and he gets up and goes. That's it. That was the totality of the actual conversation, the meeting.
He just got up and walked away.
Well, yes, to go call, to answer the phone. He said, look, I'll be right back. I have to take this call. And so he got up. So the point is we only had this 30-second interaction with him. Okay. Immediately, I turn to the doctor and I say, this is bad. We got to get the hell out of here. There's something really awful about this place and we got to go. And she turned to me and said, yeah, I know. What are we going to do? Okay, and now the interesting thing is neither of us explained what we thought, nothing. We intuitively both knew.
There.
Right, this is a bad situation.
Yeah. Yep.
And we both knew it. Now the problem is we were both peas, and that's bad because then we went round and round. I was like, we should go, and she's like, oh, but I really want to check out this van, and I know this is going to be bad. And she's like, oh, I don't know what to do. What if they have the van I want? Well, maybe we can order it online or something, And of course, by then the guy comes back. You know what I mean? We never got to a decision.
You didn't get to that point yet.
Right, because we're perceivers. We went round and round and round. And sure enough, okay, it was a disaster. They tried to pressure her into buying this thing and signing off on it, and she wanted to negotiate the price, and they didn't want to negotiate the price. She wanted something for a certain thing, and the general manager came down and yelled at us. I mean, think about this. I mean, when does that happen at a car dealership? Yelled at us and had some deal on a piece of paper and crumpled it up and threw it on the floor in anger. It was the most horrible experience I've ever had at a car dealership. And we just got up and left. We were like, okay, now we have to go. Let's get out of here and split.
And then now you're both looking at each other like, damn, we should have just done it. We should have
just gotten up absolutely, and gone. Yes. Or the amazing thing, again, about the incident is that, okay, we only met this guy 30 seconds. And 30 seconds in, we knew immediately it was bad.
That's all it takes.
That's all it took was 30 seconds, and like, this is a bad situation. And nothing bad had happened previous to that. I mean, we'd been to like 7 places, and it was
everything
nice.
else was fine.
Right, so it's not like we had this bad experience and we're being paranoid. You know, it wasn't
no, it was just so all of a sudden you got that bad
right,
feeling.
we both got it simultaneously, and that's what I mean by an NF moment. We were both picking it up, and we were both right. It was the worst moment of the day. All right, so that's all the time we have, unfortunately. So, all right, well, thanks, Angela. And maybe we'll go back to NF moments some other day.
Okay.